straight talk with no chaser. It gives the people a voice, empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk with no chaser. 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 She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeart Radio Station. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, and I'm so glad to be with everyone this evening. I have two guests, and I'm really excited about both. They are talking about vastly different things, but they're all dealing with womanhood. My first guest is I'm trying not to say Auntie Linda, Ms. Lena Hanna, who is the program director of Chicago Women in Trades. How are you this evening?
I am excited about being here. Thank you so much for having me back again.
Well, we have to always, if possible, promote what's positive in the neighborhood. And there are a couple of really positive events coming up this week.
Right.
Now, I want to talk about the original event first, which is Wednesday, July 12th at 6 p.m. And this will be at the 2444 West 16th Street address.
Yes, yes.
Suite 3E. This is the Empower Yourself with the Tools for Success open house for Chicago Women in Trades. Can you explain to the viewers who have not familiarized themselves with your organization exactly what the Chicago Women in Trades do?
So Chicago Women in Trades is a 35-year-old organization. Our goal is to introduce women who have thought about being in construction and welding and never knew how to get in, and to also really get these young women excited about doing some work that people tell them that they shouldn't do because they're women. So we do that through two programs. We have a pre-apprenticeship program, which is a 12-week program. To get into that program, to prepare to go into construction, you must have a high school diploma or a GED, a valid driver's license, and then there's a series of assessments that we do.
And what is the second program?
The second program is a welding program, which is a welding program that prepares women to go to work in the welding in the manufacturing industry. It is really exciting. You hear people talking about manufacturing coming back to the United States. Well, Chicago is preparing for that. And our welding program is a 12-week program. It is free. Both of our programs are free. And so they require people to make a significant commitment to the program. But to get into the welding program, you have to have desire. You have to want to do that work. You do not have to have a high school diploma or a GED, and no driver's license is required.
Now, let's talk about what you just said as far as Chicago being on the forefront of reestablishing industry-level jobs. Because for people that don't know, if I had known 25, 30 years ago what I know now, I'm not sure I would have gone to the four-year college. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But when you're talking about your fiscal solvency, these are the jobs that will make more than I do, and I've been on my job quite some time.
Well, what we want to do is make sure people are aware of options. It's not one way to do this thing. And what happens is that people all are being driven to going to college, and they may have excellent math skills. They may have excellent reading skills. But what happens is that they really enjoy the excitement of building, putting something together, welding. They can walk into the welding positions and make typically between $11 and $14 an hour, with the opportunity and potential to grow that very quickly to $17 an hour. And the training is very expensive. They can easily, pay $15,000 to go to one of those schools that claim that they can teach you and get you in fast. What we do is what we really do prepare women to learn how to weld, but also navigate navigate work, navigate. And so we don't teach people how to get a job. We teach people how to get a job and keep a job.
So when we're looking at the 12-week commitment for both programs, because with the construction program, what are the options once they complete it as far as employment or apprenticeship?
So the opportunity to go into apprenticeship program is a pretty long process. So what we prepare them for is to making sure that they understand how to apply, that they are able to take the test. We have women each cycle who take tests and score in the top 10. And that's because they're prepared. So for an example, the Heat and Frost are giving their application, taking applications and giving their tests. They may only take 25 applicants. Well, we want our women to score high enough to be one of those 25. The electricians, they have a much more robust program. So they take people quarterly. And so those are different ways in which we make everyone understand what is it that you really want to do? So to reach that, we teach them math and reading on Tuesday and Thursdays. And then on Saturdays, we do hands-on. We go out to visit the carpenters, the electricians, the pipe fitters, and the plumbers. So people can meet women who do these jobs professionally, who are apprentices or journey-level tradeswomen. And they get to hear the stories. And we don't take them and give them the good stories. We give them the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The truth.
That's
just
right,
the
that's
truth.
right.
And it's a combination of all those things.
Yeah.
So there are options in the construction program. There are subcategories.
Yes, yes. And so what we want to do is make sure that they understand what their options are and the nuances of each of those programs. It's different being a carpenter from becoming a plumber. And we want to make sure that they pick the trade that matches their lifestyle and their desire. But going into construction is challenging for women. If you have children and you have to be on the job site at 5:30 in the morning, that means you're leaving home at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So childcare has to be something that is really, that village comes in and supports a woman who wants to go into construction, because it's not your average job. Also, you have to be prepared for the fact that it's not 12 months a year. You may easily work 9 months a year. Some of the trades do work 12 months. The other thing that we're introducing women to is transportation, such as the railroads, Metro, because those are jobs that while you may work the worst shift when you start, eventually you end up with a pretty steady, secure position, and those are great opportunities for women.
And those programs also, in a lot of cases, have pensions and benefits, things that you may not get at a Walmart. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
But things that are going to cost you if you don't have Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, for people that don't know the difference, it's the same, or some other form of COBRA, which used to be COBRA.
Yes.
It might still be. So these are all things to consider, because that's stability that a lot of people don't have.
And so what we do is that we not just introduce women into the careers, but we talk about how to manage these different careers, because it does require you, just because you get a big paycheck on June 1st, it doesn't mean that January 1st you're going to be working. And so how do you manage? And if you can imagine the thrill for people to drive around Chicago and point out to their children that they built that
I helped
building.
build that.
That's right. That's right. It's a tremendous amount of pride and excitement. In the welding part of this is that you do have lots of manufacturing companies, large and small. You may have something really big like working at Ford, but the bottom line is that you have more options. The better your skills are, the more that you continue to hone those skills, then you have lots of options.
Now, I want to shift really fast to the new program.
Right.
And I'm excited to say that this is the Englewood Women's Initiative.
Right. Chicago Foundation for Women is funding a project for several organizations to come together and say, listen, we're going to go to Englewood. We're going to talk to the women in Englewood. And by doing this, we're opening up opportunities for women who may have been outside and not know what's going on. So the Chicago Women in Trades is going to be an opportunity for women in Englewood to be recruited and engaged in some very special programs. And we're excited. So I've got quickly two things. On Wednesday, July 12th, in the daytime, from 10 to 12, we're going to be on 63rd at the bank. And Teamwork Inglewood is combined with several of the organizations. We're going to host an open house. It'll be food, it'll be excitement, it'll be conversation. Wednesday night is Chicago Women in Trades orientation at 6 o'clock, and we're looking forward to people coming out. So you can like Chicago Women in Trades on Facebook, and you can also like the Inglewood's Women's Initiative on Facebook.
Now, let me say this again. The Inglewood Women's Initiative is Wednesday, July 12th from 10 to noon, 815 West 83rd Street on the second floor at the U.S. Bank building. So that is 63rd and Halsted.
Right.
So that's 63rd and Halsted, 10 o'clock to noon on Wednesday, this Wednesday coming up. And then that evening, you will go to the 2444 West 16th Street, Suite 3E address at 6 p.m. for the Empower Yourself with the Tools for Success open house. And this number to call is 312-942-1444.
And that's for both programs. They can ask for me, Linda Hanna.
Well, thank you so much, Auntie Linda, for coming out. But I want women to know, even if you feel that you've been on a job, for so long, you can, if you are interested, shift gears
and get a career. That's what we're talking about.
Get a career. Not something that's just, I'm just making it, week to week. This is a career opportunity, because you're right. And there's pride involved. I know my mother's father helped build some of the expressways here. He was a cement layer. And my mother still, 50, 60 years later, still brings that up. That's a big deal to her, that her dad was part of making something that's a part of Chicago's infrastructure. I can't imagine what it must feel like to say your mom helped build the Sears Tower. It's up. I'm just saying, back in the day, if there were women that worked on that project,
right,
that's a big deal, because women now a lot of times are head of households and need some type of stable income. And even like you said, if you have to learn how to manage the 9 months out of the year, because there are a lot of seasonal jobs out here, not just in construction. So you have to learn how to manage it for those times that you're off, but it's doable and it's rewarding and it's worth it.
And we are excited at Chicago Women in Trades to be engaged in the Inglewood Project and the work that we do daily. And I must say thank you, Rhea, for having me here to talk about the work that I love.
Definitely. So Linda Hanna is who you contact. Ask for her at 312-942-1444. Wednesday during the day, Team Inglewood. Wednesday in the evening at the main headquarters for Chicago Women's in Trade. All right. Thank you so much, Auntie Linda. And I'm going to have my second guest come right up, because we're on live. Devereaux, author of Not By My Own. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out. Now, this is your first writing published.
Yes.
All right. And I read a little of it and I was like, oh, I'm gonna put this down because I don't want to give away too much. But let's talk about what led you to this journey to write the book.
Okay, well, I actually went to Columbia College, and my major at the time was journalism. So I always knew that I wanted to write. Back then, I wanted to actually own a magazine company. But I was pregnant with my first daughter at 18, and I wanted to get a more stable job. So I ended up leaving Columbia and going to a whole different field, which now I'm in healthcare. But I still had the desire to write. A lot of my writing that's actually in the book is stuff that I wrote when I was 17 and 18. Different poems, original works that I wrote as I was going through a very abusive relationship. And that is the major inspiration behind Not By My Own, because I was in actually 2 abusive relationships, and I wanted to show other women, even men, because I do have some men who purchased the book, what abuse is, what is healthy, how to get out if you are in an abusive relationship. And it's also some there too. So it's not all heavy and serious.
Your background for writing came about, but what motivated you to actually tell your story? Because there are so many people, and I really believe actually that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
It's just how many people choose to tell it and by what method. So what made you decide I'm going to bare my personal soul, put it in the book format, and let the world know exactly what happened to me and how I made it through? What made you do that?
Well, I actually served with a domestic violence ministry at my church, and they were actually the ones who pushed me to start sharing. Because when I was going there, I was in an abusive relationship, and I would sit way in the back and listen to everybody else sharing and hope like one day I want to be that brave where I can share. And like I said, writing was always my outlet. So I knew a lot of things I couldn't talk about, I could write about it. So for years, I was saying that I was going to go ahead and write this book. I started a couple years back, put the book down. I started again, put the book down. I went to an entrepreneurship meeting specifically for people who wanted to write. And I met some people there. They helped me get on the right track as far as writing out the outline and coming up with different titles. I wanted to be able to tell my story. It's not like an autobiography per se, but I wanted to highlight some things that I know other people are going through so that they would know that they weren't alone.
When you say you were with the domestic violence ministry at your church, why did you even start going? Because there are a lot of people, I believe, that are in churches that have ministry similar to that,
Yeah.
and just don't go because of whatever reason. They are ashamed, embarrassed, uncomfortable. They don't want the abuser to know that they're going. Why did you decide to go?
That's a good question. When I was in the relationship, I was in denial. I was going through a lot of depression. And so I went to a counselor who actually pulled out a power and control wheel that highlights all the different types of domestic violence: physical, emotional, financial, on. But she went around the circle and told me, you are in an abusive relationship. You need to get out of here. Like, she was very direct, giving it to me straight. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I told her that I had gotten a flyer, but I was too embarrassed to go. And she pushed me to go. She's like, by the time that you come here again for your next session,
You should have gone
exactly
to the meeting.
Yep.
Because most people don't know that domestic violence is not just physical abuse. You mentioned one that most people never think about, which is financial.
Yeah.
If you go to work every day and have no control over that money involuntarily,
Right.
there's a problem here.
Definitely.
Or if you're not, quote unquote, allowed to work, and then you are doled an allowance as an adult, there's a problem here, because that is someone controlling your ability to spend funding on whatever it is that you would spend funding on.
Right.
And that is a form of abuse. And even with emotional abuse, a lot of people don't recognize when you talk to a person in a particular way, nobody's going to want you. You too ugly.
Right. Oh my goodness. I definitely heard that.
That's abuse. Because if that's how you feel about the person, that's fine. Leave that person. You don't have to demean someone because you want them to stay with you and have them convinced that no one else would want to be with them. You know, you had too many baby daddies. Nobody gonna want you. All that type of stuff people say to people.
They definitely do.
And that is emotional abuse. So you happen to have two daughters.
I do.
And one is pretty young, but the older daughter is how old?
12.
So she's a little more aware and is actually age-wise on the cusp of really understanding relationship dynamics. What does she understand about your history?
Well, unfortunately, she witnessed a lot of the physical and the emotional abuse where I was being talked down to, the fighting, the arguing, and it traumatized her. She was, and still sometimes is very sensitive to loud noise, people causing a lot of ruckus. She clings to me. We did go through counseling together, and she was able to get some of that out. But she saw it. And that was another reason that I knew I needed to get out, because of not only was it affecting me, but my children, and especially her, because she was old enough to know what
She
was
was
going
aware.
on. Yeah.
And again, for those that don't know, this is my personal opinion, even though I have worked at domestic violence court as a probation officer for now 17 years.
Oh, okay.
Your children will suffer from a form of what I am just lumping in the basket of PTSD.
Yeah.
Because any prolonged traumatic event has an emotional impact on everyone around, including the children. And a lot of the children come back through the system as either an abuser
Right.
or an abused victim. So after 17 years, I'm seeing the children of some of the people I saw at the beginning of being in domestic violence court. And they'll, because a lot of them, hey, you remember me?
Oh no.
Because they're there now with their children.
Right.
And they sadly did not change the behavior, be they the abuser or the abused. And by the abused, I mean not change the behavior, but got out of the situation soon enough that the children were not affected.
Right.
And for those who really got that what was going on was wrong, they understand that they moved a little bit too late for their children to not ingest that as quote unquote their normal. So I can respect the fact that you recognize, not necessarily even for yourself at first, but for your child, that this is not something that she should see.
Yeah, that was really important to me because I saw the effects of the trauma, and I agree with PTSD. And that's why I work in healthcare as well. So I know about the benefits of counseling when you are, especially in a traumatic situation. So we have gone through that process. Still, whenever she needs it, it's available to us. But mostly we got the healing from going to church and that domestic violence ministry. So combined with learning what it is and also the spiritual aspects of it, that's what helped me to get free.
I noted that beyond the domestic violence that you wrote about, you also wrote about some childhood issues in the book.
Yeah.
And was that something that was a repressed situation, or was that a memory that you always carried with you consciously?
It was repressed. I actually went to one of the meetings and heard someone else sharing their story. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this sounds really familiar. But because it was so traumatic to me, I had like buried it. And in that meeting, I remember just crying and bawling my eyes out, like, Lord, I need help. It's a lot of unresolved issues that came back from stuff that happened to me during childhood that I wasn't really aware of until I went back, talked to the counselor, worked through that, so then I could move forward with the healing process.
Let me ask you this. For the childhood trauma, was that in your home or was that at the hands of someone outside of your home?
Outside.
Okay. Because a lot of people to understand is when you have a victimized person, that person typically grows up to be a victimized person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just, oh, I'm gonna shake it off and keep it moving without any help. No, and not see that you're in that situation, even though the face has changed.
Right.
The situation, not so much. Is that something that you've encountered?
Absolutely. The relationships that I had up to my early adult, was all toxic, and it was because of the issues that I had as a child. It was a major factor. I remember a boy that I really liked telling me, "You're ugly," and he was my crush. So I was crushed by the fact that he felt this way about me. And some other people, they might be able to just brush that off. But when you're already dealing with deep-rooted issues, it was compounded. And so I found myself always like crying and wondering why nobody liked me, especially with boys, why I wasn't attractive to them. And then once I started getting attention from men, I really liked it, and I really wanted to do whatever it took to make sure that I kept it. Yeah. Ride or die, that's how it was.
And down the rabbit hole we go.
Exactly.
So now that you've written this book, what do you see yourself doing? Are you going to write another book? Are you going to start speaking about what you've been through as far as a motivational speaker, or are you just going to work on promoting this right now?
Well, right now I'm promoting it, but I did work on a collaborative project, a memoir with a few other women, and that's coming out at the end of the month. That's called Memoirs of a Wounded Soul. So,
wow,
yeah, part of my testimony, is within that book as well.
Now, this is not by my own. Yay. By Whit Devereaux. How can people who are interested in buying your book get it?
Well, you can go on Amazon, Kindle, if you like the ebook, and also my website, which is whitdevereaux.com.
Let's spell that WHITDEVEREAUX.com. For those folks.
That's right.
Girl, how you spell that?
Yes, and I have a special that's going on till midnight. So if you go on my site, it's not on Amazon, but on my site, and you enter in the promo code WHIT July 20, and you can get 20% off.
And understand, this book was just published last month.
Yeah, June 16th.
So this is a really exciting moment because I always like to see young people, because you're younger than I am, saying, you know what, I'm not going to be ashamed. Right. Because I haven't done anything to be ashamed for. I'm going to put it out here and I'm going to share my testimony so that someone else might be healed and might be helped. So Whit Devereaux, I thank you so much for being a guest on the Straight No Chaser show. And I look forward to seeing what comes with this. And what is the other book's name?
Memoirs of a Wounded Soul.
And how will that be available?
On Amazon as well.
And will they also be on your website?
Yeah, I will make sure to post that. Mm-hmm.
And to not forget, empower yourself with the tools for success this Wednesday at 6 p.m., 2444 West 16th Street, Suite 3E. For people that are a little less familiar with the West Side, that is 16th and Western. And if you are in Inglewood, this Wednesday, July 12th from 10 to noon, 815 West 63rd Street. For people that's not as familiar, that's 63rd and Halsted, second floor of the U.S. Bank building. Come out to the Inglewood Women's Initiative. And with that, we are closing out the Straight No Chaser show for today. I appreciate all of my guests coming out this evening because we are today talking about womanhood and how to advance it and how to fix not what we have wrong with us, but being positive about what's right with us.
Absolutely.
And letting the world do whatever they do. But we're going to get ourselves together. Yes, and we're going to get us a career too, Auntie Linda.
Exactly. So, absolutely. Thank you again.
Definitely. With Devereaux and Linda Hanna on the Straight No Chaser show. And with that, peace and blessings in the name of Jesus, everyone. And I'll see you next Monday. We are counting down. This is the last month of the regular showing of the Straight No Chaser show. Starting next month, it is Acreage, Assets and Acquisitions, discussing all aspects of real estate on the second and fourth Mondays at 6 p.m., hosted by your newly licensed realtor, Rhea Ray Harris. Yay. We will see you next Monday.
It's straight talk with no chaser. It gives the people a voice. Empower choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives a dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.